What happened? Testing. 1, 2, 3. All right, now it's working. Right, we're doing another one of these TikTok debates, and I'm gonna go live on TikTok right now. Trump has already abandoned you. Just setting up the live stream. Change my line. Donation link in bio. I set up a donation link a while ago, but now I just put in the bio of the TikTok account. So, all right, things look good here. Going live on TikTok, live on YouTube. Let me go ahead and pull up the stream. Trump has already abandoned his base. He's already abandoned MAGA, as they say. Ugh, my stupid glasses are not centered. Let me pull up the YouTube link. Folks, if you disagree with this prompt that Trump has already abandoned MAGA, let me know. Let's have a conversation. This stream won't be too long. I want this to go for like an hour or something like that. But yeah, I mean, the prompt, fellas, is true. If you're a Trump supporter, he's already abandoned you. Very sad to see. Very unfortunate. Disappointing, some might say. What makes you say that? The big thing is his cabinet appointments. He was running as I'm going to stop the wars, and he's filling the cabinet with neocons and warmongers. Best example you can think of, Secretary of State nominated was, or soon to be nominated rather, because he's not president yet, was Marco Rubio. Rubio, who Donald Trump made fun of, who he called Sheldon Adelson's puppet, is now going to potentially be his Secretary of State. If you don't consider that abandoning the anti-war message that he ran on, well, I don't know what else to say that. There's no way this guy is still debating. Just take your L and quit yapping. Seriously. Well, NFSGO, I just like debating. That's it. Snowflakes, stop, hate, and divide, and enjoy the safety and prosperity that Trump will bring all Americans. Well, frankly, I disagree that he's going to bring that. But also, I think it's worth pointing out that he's supporting the neocons and bringing the neocons onto his administration. All right, I see Pooch is requesting to join. And Franco Nostalgico in YouTube chat says, hi. Hello, Franco. What's up? What's on your mind? Hello, can you hear me?
Yo, it was good.
What's good? What's on your mind?
Not much. Just relaxing.
That's cool.
You know,
that's
not
cool.
stressing about all this stuff you talking about.
Yeah. Do you disagree with what I got to say?
Yeah, I don't think he's abandoned you already. I mean, he's not even in office, bro. I think you just gotta find something better to do with your time, honestly.
Yeah, I'm just making some content. I'm having some fun debating, but I mean, I'm specifically talking about the cabinet picks. Did he not run in a bit of an anti-war platform, or at least he claimed to be the anti-war guy?
Yeah, he did.
And then who was he putting for Secretary of State?
I don't know. You tell me. Why is he? Why
Marco
do you think
Rubio.
what he's
Do you know
doing
who
is not
Marco Rubio
anti-war
is?
when he's not even president yet?
Yeah, he's gonna be president, and he's
Okay, but
making
he's
the
not
cabinet
president
picks. You
yet.
understand how that works, right?
Yeah, I do.
So he put a neocon, warmonger, Marco
Yeah.
Rubio as his pick. Does not say to you, he's not so serious about being potentially anti-war, right?
No, it doesn't really tell me anything. There was more.
You can't tell anything based on his own cabinet
No,
picks, who he's surrounding
no,
himself in his
no.
administration.
That doesn't lead to war. That's just not like,
Really?
dude. He hasn't abandoned us. Sorry, I
So
think
you're
you should
telling
change
me,
the
wait.
title.
You're telling me
I'm not telling
if
you
you're
anything. I
putting
just don't think
somebody
he's gonna
that
start a
fucks
war.
with war, ideologically fucks with war, into your administration, you're gonna be the dove president. You're gonna be the peace guy.
That's what he was when he was president the last time.
He absolutely wasn't. You think Donald Trump was a dove?
Yeah, You're a goofy if you think that, then, because
So I'm curious. I'm curious. What do you think happened in
We
Yemen?
had
What was
peace
going
with
on in
China
Yemen?
and Russia.
Wait. What was
There
going on in
wasn't
Yemen? What did he do with
Israel-Palestine
Yemen?
conflict. All right, Yemen. All right, yeah. Yemen is like irrelevant, dude.
What did Donald?
Wake up, bro.
What did Donald Trump do in Yemen?
What did he do in Yemen? Please tell me. Please tell me how
Saudi
that's
Arabia,
relevant.
our ally, was doing a genocide in Yemen. It was a completely unequal playing field. You can't even call it a war. And Donald Trump was given the opportunity to stop supplying the murderers with weapons by a bill sent to him from Congress, it was a bipartisan bill by Bernie Sanders and Republican conservative Mike Lee. And they said, we need to stop supplying this genocide in Yemen. What did Donald Trump do?
Nothing, because that wasn't his problem. That was the problem before he was
It wasn't.
in office.
Wait.
And,
Do you understand? Do you understand he was president, right?
Yeah.
So if he's president
Oh my God, bro.
and we're sending weapons under his watch, that's not his problem?
What?
If you gave a knife to a murderer, a no murderer, are you not a little responsible when you know he's murdered 50 billion people?
Bro, I didn't even come up here to argue with you, bro. I just wanted to pray for you and like hope that like you
Again, you are out here being like, bro, I just want to pray for you. I just want to do this. And you're saying
No,
Trump,
I didn't.
Trump's
You're
not
the
a
one that's all
warmonger.
in your
Trump's a
feelings.
dove.
You're the one that's low
Trump's
test.
a dove, brother.
You're
Trump's
the
a
one
dove,
that's
brother. But then he supported
All
a
right, bro.
genocide
No,
in
I
Yemen.
never
And you chill
said
with
that.
that. You chill with that.
Keep putting words in my
You chill
mouth,
with
bro.
that. You
not
claimed
chill
he
with
was a dove
that.
when he did that shit. Did you not claim he was a dove?
No, I never said that.
You
You're
literally
putting
said he
words
was
in
a
my
dove,
mouth.
bro. You literally said there was
I
peace in his
never.
term, bro.
That
You're a
dove
fucking
did not
liar
come
too.
out my
And you want to come
mouth
here
once,
talking about
bro.
praying, brother?
Why are you
come
so
here talking about
emotional?
praying?
Calm down. You
In the Ten
bro.
Commandments,
Touch
what
some
does it say
grass.
about
Go
lying,
lift
brother?
some weight.
10 Commandments.
Dude, you
Read the
need
10
to get it
Commandments to me.
together, bro. You're so emotional over something you have no control over.
I'm
You
anti-genocide.
need help.
I'm anti-genocide,
Jesus.
and you're
I
out here
hope
trying to be
Jesus
like, bro,
helps
I just
you.
came to
Like,
pray
please
for
help
you.
yourself, bro.
But honestly, there's people waiting, so you got
You
any
clearly
final
are
points that you
low
want to make,
test.
or are
You
you just
get
gonna
no
yap?
play. You get no money. Like, bro, go touch some grass. Like, go
Brother,
live
you
in the real
supporting
world.
genocide,
Go
dog.
find something
You
better to
supporting
do.
genocide.
No,
Why
I
do you
don't.
support
You're a goofy.
genocide?
You keep putting words in
Why
my
do you
mouth.
support sending weapons to Yemen? You
Trump
support the
won.
guy that
Cry
did
about
that?
it. You're on here wasting your time as well as everyone
Hey,
else's
you out
time.
here
in
you out here on the stream too, brother? You talking? All right, bro. Next person.
Because I'm trying to
person.
make you calm down, bro. You
Next
need
person,
help, bro.
brother.
Like you so
pro
emotional
genocide.
for real. You a
You got
grown ass
anything
man
you gotta
acting like
say?
a child.
You pro genocide.
You act more like a bitch
You don't
than
even
my
know who
mom and
Marco
my
Rubio
girl, bro.
is because you're not even
so
paying
fucking
attention to the guy
emotional.
that you supported, bro.
You over here
don't even
sweating
know, bro.
over this shit, bro.
You don't even know.
Like, do you see?
You're
Like,
a
it
low
is not that
information
serious,
guy.
gang.
You're a low
You
IQ
over
guy,
here
probably.
sweating
And we're
bullets
gonna go
over
move
this
on to
crap.
the next person, all right?
Please do.
All right, next person. Next person. Callie, this person's on top, so we're gonna put you in. Hello.
What's going on?
What's
How
up,
are you
man?
this morning or this afternoon? How are you?
I'm good. So, do you disagree with the prompt?
Yeah, definitely.
So where am I wrong here?
I mean, it says already abandoned you. No, he hasn't abandoned anybody.
So he was running
We
that
talked
he's gonna
last
be
time
anti-war,
about
right?
Excuse me?
He was running as the anti-war candidate, essentially. I was told a million
Yeah,
times by Trump supporters that he's gonna bring peace.
Right, we had no new wars under him.
Yeah, but we also supported the genocide in Yemen. But we're talking about the future here. We can get back to his record eventually, but I'm talking about now. Let's see what he did when it comes to foreign policy.
You want to talk about that?
I mean, who did he nominate as Secretary of State? That's essentially our main foreign policy guy.
Hold on. Do you want to talk about that? Your Democrats wanted Dick Cheney, the warmonger.
Yeah, no, I didn't want Dick Cheney. I think Kamala Harris is a fucking
all
idiot.
All of a sudden.
Hold on. I'm speaking for myself here.
Republicans this,
hold on.
Democrats
hold on.
that. So
hey,
take
hold on.
Take what
hold
you
on.
guys wanted.
Hold on.
You wanted
hold
Dick
on.
Cheney, which
hold
is an
up.
actual warmonger, and you knew it.
Hold up.
Like, shut up, dude.
Hey.
You can't even.
Hey, let me respond to your point. Because I agree with you. Fuck Dick
Already,
Cheney.
you're a warmonger.
We're in a complete agreement. Fuck
The
Dick Cheney.
Democrat
All right,
Party
we're going to
has
move on
always
to the next
been a
person because you don't
warmonger.
shut up. All right? You want to shut up for a second?
You want
to shut up for a second? We can shut up for a second, and I can explain my position to you on Dick Cheney. right? So Kamala Harris made an absolute mistake campaigning with the Cheneys. It was very bad, especially when it came to winning votes in places like Michigan. They tried to be
do you want to talk about
conservatives,
Michigan too?
and it was
That's
a bad
even better.
move.
I can't
But
wait till we get to Michigan.
ultimately, Dick Cheney was not running for office, and ultimately, you would have seen potentially some change in, say, Israel policy with breaking from Biden if Kamala was elected. You're not going to see that. You're going to see an intensification of Biden's Israel policy. Because we can talk about the policy. And who did Donald Trump pick as his ambassador to the United Nations?
What's her name? The lady. I can't remember.
And what is her
name.
position? What is her position on Israel's military action in Gaza, the genocide?
Wait, hold on. I got a question for you. Who actually sponsored by his fuck up
Huh? What'd you say?
genocide in Gaza? Who sponsored the
Yeah,
mess
no, fuck Joe
of the
Biden.
genocide
Fuck Joe
in
Biden.
Gaza? Who did that? Joe Biden. right?
Yeah. So
Yeah,
if that's
okay,
bad,
so
we
he
can agree that's
gave-
bad. Why are
he
you supporting the
gave
guy
all-
that
he
said? Wait,
gave all the
if we agree that's
Hamas their
bad,
money.
then why are you
You know
supporting
that,
the guy
right?
that says that Biden was holding Israel back?
You know
though?
that, right? That's the Democratic Party.
No,
So
no,
what
no,
are you talking
no.
about, bro? What are
No.
you talking about, bro?
So
What are you talking about?
are you trying to make the claim now that Donald
What are you
Trump
talking about?
is going to change Biden's policy on Israel and actually
No,
move
he's
us
going to bring
towards a
peace, bud.
ceasefire
He's going to bring
or
peace
preventing
like
arms
none of
going
you
to Israel?
Democrats could the whole time.
Huh?
He's going to bring peace just like none of you Democrats could the whole time. I'm
Right.
going to make
So
shit
again,
worse.
I'm asking you a direct question. Is Donald Trump going to change policy on Israel? Is he going to stop the sale of the weapons? Is he going to say you need a ceasefire right now?
I don't know what he's going to do.
Of course. Well, he said it directly that he's not going to do that. That he said that Biden is somehow holding Israel back. And he's
I
now
think
putting,
what
as
he's
you
gonna do
said,
is let-
this
I think what he's
pro-Israel
gonna
war
do is
hawk
let the
as his
Democratic
ambassador to the
Party
United Nations.
fuck it
Who
up
is his?
until he's
Who is
actually
Donald
in
Trump's
office.
choice as Secretary
And
of
then he's
State?
going to snap his fingers and go, guess what, buddy? You're gonna stop fighting, or hey, we're going to turn you all into fucking target.
You know,
parking
Ronald
lot.
Reagan was actually able to intervene in Israel's aggression towards Lebanon, and then it stopped. I'm not saying Donald Trump's going to snap a finger, but I'm saying he's going
Yeah,
to
he's
make
gonna snap his
policy
fingers,
that's pro-Israel, and you know it. You literally
He's got
said,
to come up with a policy first that's going to work.
excuse me?
He's got to come up with a policy first that's going to work.
I mean, there is a bill by Bernie Sanders to stop offensive weapons being sold to Israel. You support that?
Wait, stop what?
To stop the sale of weapons towards Israel as they commit a genocide in Yemen. You support that?
Well, then why didn't your president support it?
Again, we're
Well,
talking
you've
about the
been
guy
off
that's
it.
going to be president. I'm not
Hold
here
on, no, we're
defending Joe
talking about the
Biden.
guy
I
that's
literally
president
criticize
right
Joe
now,
Biden.
bud.
The difference between you and me
Hold on.
is
The
I can
difference
criticize
is
my
our
someone on
president is
my
the
team,
opposite.
and you can't
Yours has
criticize the
been in
guy on
office
your
for the
team.
last
You
4
want to
years.
pretend that he's pro-peace, but
That's
then
what
you
I thought.
can't criticize him,
That's
brother.
what I thought. You guys are warmongers, just like you've always been.
Wait, hey,
And you
hey,
can't. You
hey,
want to blame the next guy
hey,
that ain't even in office yet.
hey, listen,
give me
brother.
a break. You're
Listen,
silly.
brother. I criticize Joe Biden and I criticize Kamala Harris. You are
Don't
out here.
criticize Donald
You are
Trump
out
being in.
here.
He ain't been in office for the last 4 years.
You are here saying that
Yeah, I'm
no,
here
Donald
saying
Trump
that
is definitely
he's
the
gonna
peace
figure
guy.
something out.
And by the way, what Joe Biden did in Israel was bad, but Donald Trump campaigns that he's going to make it worse.
That's not
And you're
just
saying
what
he's
he
the peace
did in
guy.
Israel, it's
You're
what he
saying there
did
was no
for-
war during his term. We were literally in Iraq and Afghanistan.
Hey, how do
we
you
were
think,
literally
how do you
supporting a
think
genocide in
Hamas got all
Yemen.
the money? How do you think Hamas got all that money
Excuse me?
for that genocide? How do you think Hamas got all that money for that genocide?
Hamas got all that money for that genocide. You're claiming
Yeah,
that the
for the
genocide is on
genocide.
Hamas's part.
Yes, yeah,
You're claiming that the Palestinians are the aggressors in this situation.
yes, I am.
All right. So I think you're
Why
not
do you
very
think- hold
committed to
on,
peace
okay,
either,
so
if that's your
I can explain
analysis.
it to you if you want to.
I think that, and by the way, there's literally statements from Benjamin Netanyahu saying that he wants Hamas to exist and be present because it gives them a boogeyman, essentially, that they can fight against, right? Of course, you don't want to recognize that because that's Trump's guy, and you've
And
proven
so
yourself to
why
be a pretty
did the-
biased dude
Let me
in this
ask you this. Let
conversation.
me ask you this. Why did this war all of a sudden get out of hand or start? Let's just say start when Joe Biden was
Oh,
in
this war
office.
didn't.
It has
This
something to do with oil.
war didn't start on October 7th.
Yeah, but it got predominantly worse when Joe Biden
this
got
has
in
been
office
going
because
on
somebody
for
got money
decades,
from
okay?
oil.
Do you
Somebody
think there
got
was
money from
peace
oil.
with Israel and Palestine
Hey,
during
what
Trump?
country, right, provides a lot of oil?
Do you think that there was
country?
peace with Israel and Palestine during Donald Trump?
Yeah,
Really?
Yeah, nothing like this. Nothing
Really?
like what's going on the scale of what's going on right now. Yeah, you're absolutely right. Really.
That's fascinating. I mean, there was occupation of Gaza. There was continued settlements in the West Bank. There was bombings in Gaza. People die every single year in Gaza and even in the West Bank, killed by Israelis. By the
You
way.
honestly
And
think,
Donald Trump supports them. Donald Trump gave them everything they want.
Actual religious war, a religious war will ever stop with fanatics?
No, this is a war between
It's a religious
government.
war.
This
It's
is
a
a war
religious
between the
war.
government. There was no
It's a religious
war.
war.
There was no war between the Israelis and Palestinians when the Ottomans were in charge or when the British were in charge. It was when Israel became a state. And by the way, it's backed by the U.S. It's backed by Donald Trump. This narrative
When
that
did
this
they
is just a
become a
religious
state?
conflict is
When did they become a
just to mysticize the war. It's not a mystical conflict. This is a conflict
Actually,
that's
it is.
it's
Do you
been
think
ongoing because a
Do
state
you think if
is
the Hamas took
occupying
over
a
Israel,
people.
right, there would actually be any kind of Christianity sites available?
Wait, I'm sorry, I
or
couldn't hear you.
Jewish
There
sites?
was a follower notification. Thank you for the follow, Cranky Hippie Vlogs. Appreciate it. Repeat
Do you
that.
think let me ask you this: do you think if Hamas actually took over and got into Israel,
I'm not supporting Hamas. Why are you assuming I'm supporting
Well,
Hamas?
because that's what you're saying, that the Jews are the problem?
When did the word Jews come out of my mouth saying that Jews are the problem?
You're
I'm
saying
saying that
Israel's
the
the
government
problem,
of
right?
Israel. I'm saying that the government of Israel has been
You're saying
blockading
that the
Hamas.
Jews in
I'm saying that the
Israel are
government
the
of
problem.
Israel.
That's what you've
Hey,
been
listen,
saying.
you claiming that Israel just represents all Jews is anti-Semitic on its own, right?
That's not true at
ridiculous.
all.
A state does not represent all people of a religion.
A what?
A state run by regular
Can I ask you a
beings
question?
does
Do you
not
know anything
represent
about the
all
Bible?
people of a religion. To assume
You understand
that's
that
the case
most
is silly.
How do you figure a state isn't part of what's going on with, or their actual religion isn't part of the state that they're in? As in, like, the
So
religion.
again, being a Jew does not mean you suddenly love Israel and all the actions that Israel does, right? I don't believe that Israel is representative of Jews, and to criticize Israel is not to criticize Jews, right? There are Arab Christians that are being killed by Israel's bombs, right? What we're seeing with Israel and Palestine is a nation state in the state of Israel, currently supporting settlements in the West Bank, and
what
currently
I'm
bombing
trying-
the hell out of Gaza. Now, I'm
Right.
curious, if you think
So-
this is like a Hamas exclusive problem, I mean, why did they pass like legislation to give settlers going into the West Bank guns when Hamas is not in the West Bank? You know Hamas is not in the West Bank, right?
Hamas is everywhere.
Hamas is in the West Bank,
Hamas is everywhere.
so Hamas runs the West Bank.
No, they don't run it, but they're everywhere.
Okay, wonderful.
For you to
So
think that they're
the West
not,
Bank,
for
the
you to
West
think
Bank
that
is
they're
governed
not.
by a completely different
Hold on.
government.
For you to think that
And
Hamas is not
Hamas
everywhere,
is based
there's
out
some-
of Gaza. So are you somehow trying to say, yeah, no, the people doing the illegal settlements, they're justified coming into people's homes with guns and taking the homes because of the potential presence of Hamas?
Am I saying that?
Sounds like you are, because you're saying Hamas is everywhere, so that's why the settlers need guns.
Yeah.
Yeah, I think that's ridiculous.
Wait,
And
what
we've been
happened
at
on
this for 10
October-
minutes, so we're going to
what
move
happened on
on.
October
We're going to
6th
move
or
on a
something
little
like
bit.
that? What
We're
happened
going to
there?
move on in a little bit because we've been at this for a while and there's people waiting. But again,
Hold on.
my
You
central
brought
point
up
of
two
this,
things.
and I'm curious if you understand this, is Donald Trump ran and as the potential anti-war candidate. Now, of course, I saw through it. But
didn't see
now
through
we're
anything.
seeing his cabinet picks. You already mentioned his ambassador to the UN is this pro-Israel Zionist shill, right? And with Marco Rubio, Donald Trump called him a warmonger back in 2016. Donald Trump said that Marco Rubio is Sheldon Adelson's puppet. But
You
then I'm
wanna
curious, what
understand-
was the
you wanna-
relationship between? Do you know the relationship between Sheldon Adelson and Donald Trump? What happened when Donald Trump was president?
Nothing.
Nothing happened.
Nothing.
Really.
Yeah.
What happened to Golan Heights?
Nothing.
Nothing happened to Golan Heights?
No. Nothing.
Really?
Yeah.
You're a fucking dumbass. I'm not even gonna lie. All right. Let's move on to the next person. I think GNA Assassin. I think you might have sent. Yeah, you sent some roses, so I'm gonna put you in. Hello. What's up?
Hey, I just want to say first, I am a non-denominational political individual, not associated with any party.
Yeah.
And I don't really care for Trump. What do you mean by Trump has already abandoned you? I just want to.
Well, one of the things I remember a lot of Trump supporters saying, and the last two guys to speak, was essentially saying that Donald Trump is the peace candidate, that he's anti-war, that he's essentially a dove. I mean, the first guy said that he was a dove, that there was no conflict happening. And Donald Trump, even without taking the office of the presidency, is proving that's not the case. He put Marco Rubio as his Secretary of State. He put Mike Huckabee as his ambassador to Israel. He put that one woman for ambassador to the United Nations who's super pro-Israel, who says that people protesting Israel needs to be deported. That doesn't sound like someone that's committed to potentially trying to make peace in the region, or at least standing up to Israel's crimes.
No, I completely agree with that. That I want to say for Israel and Palestine, completely agree, but he probably will help a little bit with Trump and Ukraine. I do think there's a chance it goes the other way.
But I mean, I heard his plan.
Russia,
his plan was essentially a child could make the plan. It was just, well, what if the war just stops, but Russia keeps the land that they're occupying? Now I wonder if that applies for the Ukrainian land or the Russian land that Ukraine is occupying. I don't know, but
I hope so.
Something tells me that the Ukrainians are not going to appreciate the deal saying that their land gets to be taken.
Yeah.
Yeah. So,
I wanted to pick your brain on something else, though.
Sure.
So, do you believe that politics is like hypocrisy at its finest?
There's a ton of hypocrites in politics, absolutely.
Okay. So, what do you think about like the recent leaked Kamala document that? I don't know. It was with her and some of her associates saying that they're going to check the key states and do a recount.
Well, recounts aren't inherently,
Yes, but a lot of Democrats are latching on to this and trying to do the same thing that Trumpsters did in 2020 and be like, the numbers don't make sense. I don't think the election
was stolen, but in like close races, for example, the Senate race in Pennsylvania, they absolutely should do a recount of that just because it's close. It's just kind of customary.
No. Yeah, I completely agree with that. That is a completely fine stance on it. I was just wondering, a lot of people are just fucking completely one way or the other. It's just nice to hear somebody who's actually logical about things and thinks about things objectively.
Yeah. Well,
because realistically, one other thing, have you looked at the numbers of the elections?
Like the 2024 one?
Yeah, it's just that the popular vote, even though it went up some numbers, especially in the Democratic area, it just, first of all, doesn't make sense that it would stay up that way, because the only reason that a lot of people went out and vote because of fear-mongering on Trump's part, and people really thought they had no other choice besides Biden. That's what I was hearing a lot.
Yeah.
And it's weird to me because this year it didn't seem like that, even though we know worse things about Trump now.
Yeah, I mean, I think the simple thing that it boils down to is the old phrase, it's the economy. You know what I mean?
I can.
And right now people are not confident in the economy, and as a result, many of the people that came out for Biden, he got 81 million votes, right. Kamala got around 73 million. So a little under 10 million less people came out. It's because, in my view, people were not so confident in Biden's performance, and Kamala got that tied to her being his vice president. And
not only that, but she didn't
just weren't
feel well
excited
either
to vote. Meanwhile, with the Trump people, he didn't really expand his base much. He got in pretty similar ballpark to where he was at, 2 million more votes, so he did get a little bit more, but ultimately there was not much effort to sort of reach out across the aisle or anything like that, but he didn't need to. He needed the base excited to come out, and they did.
Yep.
So I think that's the story of the election. Democrats need a message that can actually excite people. They need to have a pro-working class message, in my view. Of course, there's some people that want to push back and be like, actually, she did nothing wrong. No, she did some stuff wrong.
Right.
Now,
it's fucking delusional. That's just not true.
Was she really in the best spot to win? Probably not. Joe Biden stayed in longer than he should have.
Not only that, but the switch was very undemocratic in general.
Yeah,
They
yeah.
didn't. There
I
was
mean,
no
at that
primary. They just
the time when he left, at that point, there's not much ways you can make it very democratic. You know what I
right.
mean?
And now Biden seems happy about Trump winning too. I mean, that's all hyperbole and like you just gotta act nice because there's nothing you can
Yeah.
do after. But at the same time,
Democrats are obsessed with civility, so of course they're not gonna pull like what Trump did, where he didn't meet with Biden after he lost, and he didn't go to the
right,
inauguration, all that stuff.
right.
Democrats
That
love
stuff is
civility.
very childish, and I would never vote for Trump for those reasons. But I just thought it was the last two elections. They should have put better candidates up. It's just
Absolutely.
it was so delusional to put these people forward and be like, these are our leaders.
Yeah.
These are the people we want leading the country instead of Trump.
Yeah.
It's just like, why? Why did they do this twice, 2 times in a row? It just
100%.
bothers me so badly.
What I'm super interested in is in 2028, assuming we still have democracy, and I'm assuming checks and balances are going to make sure that's
Yeah.
the case. We're going to see a open primary for both parties between the Democrats and the Republicans running against each other. And we're going to actually see what direction both parties take. I predict with the Republicans, they're going to try to... I mean, we could literally be in a situation where the economy is really bad and things aren't looking good, but I just get the sense that the Republicans are still going to try to beat Trump 2.0, whoever's the nominee.
Yeah, no, for sure. Well, it's probably going to be like somebody just said in chat, Vivek, and that is, he's way better. Like, that's the thing, but everybody's going to relate him to Trump.
Wait, what did the chat say?
Vivek Ramaswamy.
Oh, Vivek. I mean, Vivek, I think, would run. I mean, you're going to, in both sides, you're going to see a lot of people running. You know, in 2016, you had a ton of Republicans trying to run, and in 2020, you had a ton of Democrats trying to do it. We're going to see the biggest, probably, pool of people running for president in history, I bet.
Did you ever see Marianne Williamson? I thought she was a really good Democratic candidate, and I don't really like two one-party candidates.
I mean, I would say with Marianne, she seems like a decent person. I don't really see her ever becoming president.
Me neither, but I just think it'd be nice to get a breath of fresh air like her in office because she's not really prepared.
Or one of the few people to step up against Biden. So respect her for that, for sure.
For real.
If I were to make my predictions on who's gonna probably be the Republican nominee and the Democratic nominee, I predict with the Republicans, they're probably gonna go. I mean, JD is gonna try to. They're all gonna compete to be who's the next Trump. And and they're all, when people try to beat Donald Trump, they're sauceless. I'm not gonna lie.
No, for sure.
They don't got it. But you're gonna try to see maybe J.D. Vance trying to do it. Vivek's gonna try to do it. Fucking hell, maybe like Don Jr. is gonna try. But I'll predict J.D. Vance probably gets it.
Yeah.
Which I don't think he's a very strong general election
candidate. I don't know. I have hope in Vivek. I don't want the Republicans to win either way. I think we need an independent, if anything. That's what I'm going to be voting for. But Vivek, and like there's good on both sides, and I hope that that's the case. Good for our country, at least. I don't think any of these people are actually good. But
there's a lot of potential talent for the Democratic side. I mean, you know, straight up some of the people I don't want. I don't want Newsom, I don't want Buttigieg, and I don't want Josh Shapiro because they're just too establishment-minded. I mean, Newsom, he's an establishment Democrat. He's a corporatist. No bueno. With Josh Shapiro, he's a charter school guy, and the teachers unions didn't fuck with him because of it, and I don't fuck with him if they don't fuck with him. With Buttigieg, I mean, he was a consultant for some firm involved with the fucking 2008 recession. He's a corporatist as well. He's a great debater, but I rather keep him as a spokesman than the face of a party. You know what I'm saying? For me, the top three potential candidates would be Walz from Minnesota, Tim Walz, Gretchen Whitmer from Michigan, and Andy Beshear from Kentucky. They all have a lot of strengths in my view, but personally, I'm on the Walz train. You know what I'm saying?
Okay, I never looked into it, but did you ever look into the defamation case against him?
No.
He had some stuff said, and I don't know if he ever. They said that they were going to. The person came out and said that I don't know if it was PDF file or but it was a girl coming out and saying that he did some stuff to her. I don't know exactly what stuff, and that she was going to go with it.
Wait, no. So
And
you're
then-
talking about like the conservative publications? They were pushing this narrative that
I don't know.
Tim Walz did some sus shit, essentially.
Yes, but I thought there was a
I remember looking into it.
countershoot. I thought there was a suit and then a countershoot.
I don't remember any suits. I looked up defamation. I didn't see anything related to that.
Maybe you're right.
And I do recall somebody making this AI video, putting a former student's face on top of him. It's like the most clear AI shit, and a bunch of Republicans are pushing it on Twitter.
Maybe you're right.
So I don't believe it at all. And I mean, no student has actually come out and said it. The fact that they had to get an AI video to accuse him, it says a lot about the intentions and who's making it. So Wallace, I mean, he has a pretty clean record. A military guy. He's one of the best governors in the country.
Not a year so retarded.
And in 1920, Franklin Roosevelt was part of the losing Democratic ticket as the vice presidential nominee. Came back in 1932 after he had gotten polio and couldn't walk no more. But in 1932, he ran and became the best president we ever seen, and we elected him 4 times in a row. So that's my perspective on that.
Okay.
Hold up. Somebody in YouTube chat is saying no sound. I still hear myself on the YouTube stream. So that
We're
person
talking
probably needs to
everybody's
refresh
ears off.
their
There's some other people who want up. I'm gonna let them up. Bye.
All right. Thanks for the donation, bro.
You're welcome.
All right. I seen this IAgeMo in the waiting for a bit, so I'll put him in. And then let's see if I remember who's next after that.
Yo, what's up, brother?
What's up, buddy? What's on your mind?
Yeah, so I'm gonna have to disagree with a couple of your points.
Okay. Where's the
Why can't I hear myself? What the fuck?
Hello?
I can hear myself. Hello, hello?
Let me turn down my volume a little bit on here. Wait, hold up. I don't know what... Wait, hold on. TikTok Live is acting up. 1 second. Can you hear me?
Yeah, I can hear you.
Okay, what's on your mind? Where's the disagreement?
Yeah, so I'm gonna have to argue the point that he wasn't really running on being anti-war, more so him trying to put an end to the wars.
Yeah, no, I agree with you. He ran from both sides of his mouth. I mean, he said that he's going to bring peace. I've seen a ton of Trump supporters tell me that he's a dove on foreign policy.
Yeah.
But at the same time, he was complaining that Biden was holding Israel back and he would unleash Israel. Which means more war, essentially.
Let me ask you: Do you view Hamas as a T group?
Excuse me?
Do you view Hamas as a T group?
As a T group?
Yeah, I don't know if you can say it on TikTok.
I mean, yeah. Hamas isn't the good guys. Me calling out Israel is not a justification of anything Hamas has done. So
Yeah. So do you believe Israel has a right to?
Israel
fight
has a
back
right to
against
defend themselves, but they don't have a right to mass murder people, mostly children.
Mostly children. Well, I agree with you on that point. I don't believe that they're mass murdering children, but
I mean, most of the people that died in that conflict are children.
well, yeah, because Hamas uses their civilians as body shields, right?
No, it's because they live in buildings and the buildings are getting bombed by Israel. It's because hospitals are targets and schools are targets. And it's always easy for Israel to say, well, there was Hamas there. But of course, they can't really prove it or prove against it because the building has been blown up. So, that's the state of the conflict. I mean, Hamas has no impact on the fact that Israelis have blocked 83% of the food coming in, the food aid coming into Gaza. Hamas has no impact on one of the cabinet members saying that they're doing a complete and total siege of Gaza, blocking any food and medication, any aid, That's not really a Hamas thing. That isn't me justifying Hamas whatsoever. Fuck Hamas. Fuck terrorism. They're a right-wing fundamentalist organization. But also fuck the other right-wing fundamentalist organization blocking food.
Yeah, right. So you can not justify some of the things Israel is doing, but they do definitely have a right to, at this point, to invade.
I don't think they don't have a right to do like a full invasion. I mean, I was fine with special forces being used. Obviously, you need to get hostages home, but for example, if there was a hostage crisis in a building, let's say a school, and if the police were like, shit, what should we do? Should we send in some cops and try to get them out, or should we blow up the building, which would and the lives of the students as well. Israel has essentially gone the blow up the building route, and that's no good for me.
Right. Well, I mean, at the end of the day, I mean, the way I see it, and this is not me trying to be an Israel apologist. I do think that they are obviously committing war crimes, and
Yeah.
they need to be checked for that. But there comes a boiling point, right? Where everything kind of reaches the time, because like I said before, he made a very false claim in saying that this started on October 7th. This has been something that's been going on for 70
For
years.
a long time, exactly.
So there comes a boiling point where there is no longer the ability to play nice, to do these special operations. On October 7th, they launched an invasion. They kidnapped multiple hundreds of people, right? Was it something like 300 people, or was it 1,100 people? I can't even remember how many people, but they kidnapped and they unalived thousands of people. And I think that's the crux of my argument. Is that yes, this has been going back and forth. You know what I mean? We can argue that it was Israel that started it. You can argue that it was Palestine.
Well, I think one of the ways you deal with the hostages, right, is by doing your best to make a ceasefire. Sure, there's going to be fighting after October 7th. Nobody's really doubting that. But the issue is when there was potential chances for peace, Israel has made it clear there will be no peace until Hamas is completely eliminated. Hamas, ultimately, whether we like them or not, is the government. And if a government has, I think any government has interest in not being eliminated. You kind of remove any chance of negotiation at that point. Israel's not interested really in getting the hostages back home. There's many hostage families that are upset with the Netanyahu administration's choice of essentially blowing everything up in sight in Gaza.
And so I would.
There have been hostages that have been killed by Israeli bombs. If you're a hostage in Gaza right now, you're in more danger from an Israeli bomb dropping on your head than Hamas, honestly.
Yeah, so like I said, I'm not trying to be an Israel apologist. You know what I mean? I obviously think that there's a lot more of a, what's the word, like tactful way they could go about this. However, I mean, it's hard to argue one side or the other, I think, about where the line needs to be drawn. I mean, imagine if Mexico, right, were to launch the same kind of invasion into America. Right? Like, where do you think Mexico would be spared?
You will. Again, you can respond, but to be flicked on the arm and then to knock someone out is beyond a response. And either way, like you said, you're not trying to defend Israel, and I understand that. But if the goal is to get the hostages home, a ceasefire would have been done a while ago. I remember around May or June, Biden essentially released an Israeli plan. That's what he said. It was an Israeli plan for a ceasefire. Right. Hamas responded positively to it. Israel didn't accept it. Even though they built it up, or they were the ones that wrote it up, they didn't want it released. It was just kind of one of the options in the works.
Yeah, so I think the argument can be, we could sit here and argue back and forth, or even debate back and forth about Israel, whether or not it has its right to do that. But I think the crux of your argument is more so about Trump, right? Trump's policy on these essential foreign wars. And the argument for me would be, I think that he wants to try to put an end to it, whether it be an end in trying to speed up.
Wait, I'm sorry. Your audio is kind of a little muffled there. What was the last point you're trying to make?
Oh yeah, I think Trump is going to put an end to the war, and I think it may not be the way that we like the war to end, but there will be an end to the war.
So you think Trump's gonna put us in, or you say he's gonna put an end?
He's gonna put an end.
Okay. I mean, I don't think he's really gonna put much of an effort to end the war in Israel. He has put in extreme Zionist in his cabinet. Mike Huckabee is our ambassador to Israel, or will be soon. He wants Rubio to be a Secretary of State, a massive war hawk, anti-Iran hawk, anti-China.
Well, Marco Rubio, to push back on that, Marco Rubio has kind of conformed to Trump's foreign policy rather than his own idea of foreign policy, right?
I don't think I've seen much movement into Marco Rubio's ideology. He might give lip service, right? Like he might say, like, I don't know. I've heard that he's kind of changed tune on Iran a bit, We'll see if he like really changes completely when it comes to policy making. But on Israel, he definitely hasn't changed tune whatsoever. Because and like you said, I mean, if he wants to align himself with Donald Trump, I mean, Donald Trump is super pro-Israel, so.
Well, yeah, I mean, you kind of have to be pro-Israel, that they're our main ally in the Middle East.
You don't have to be pro-Israel. I mean, if our ally committed a genocide, I feel like it's and you might I would say Saudi Arabia did it, and Saudi Arabia, when was doing it in Yemen, Donald Trump supported them even when he was presented with a bill to stop the sale of weapons.
That's something I wanted to touch on though about the Saudi Arabia invasion into Yemen. Correct me if I'm wrong, but that was at the request of the Yemen government. They wanted help dealing with the Houthis.
Yeah, there was a war, absolutely, but
a
war doesn't require you to bomb mosques and open air markets and funerals and weddings. You know, a war doesn't require you to make the worst humanitarian crisis in the world at the time. And remember, there was the whole Syrian civil war at the time, right? And somehow Yemen was the worst. So that was at the doing of Saudi Arabia, and that was at the support of the United States government.
Like we can even see now, the Houthis are a terrorist group, right?
Again, this isn't defense of the Houthis. You can do war without making it as horrible as possible for civilians.
I'm just saying
you don't need to blockade medicine, for instance. You don't need to, like what Israel's doing, 83% of the AIDS being blocked. You don't need to do that.
So the point I'm making though is that when you are fighting a terrorist group is a lot different than fighting,
Real quick, we've been going out for 10 minutes, so I'm trying to move the ball a little bit because there's some people waiting. So any final points you want to emphasize?
Yeah, I don't think that he's necessarily a bomb. I mean, there's more that he stands on other than just his his war policy specifically. There's a lot more to his.
Yeah, I mean, if we want to talk maybe like domestic policy briefly, I mean, we don't even need to look towards what he wants to do, even though what he wants to do is really bad for domestic policy. We can look at his first administration. He claimed he was going to be a populist, or he campaigned as a populist. He claimed he was going to bring the jobs back, do an infrastructure program, fight the bad trade deals. What did he do with NAFTA and the TPP? He denied the TPP from coming in. But then what was the USMCA?
He was one of the first presidents where we managed to get money back from China.
It was NAFTA with TPP provisions. The trade deficit got worse under Donald Trump. When it came to manufacturing, we lost 200,000 manufacturing jobs under Donald Trump.
But why was that? There was an extenuating
infrastructure. He didn't have an infrastructure plan like he promised. He had an infrastructure week. Just like a celebration of infrastructure, which is not a plan, which is not policy. It's just, I can make the fucking hand sanitizer week, and we're celebrating hand sanitizer. If that makes no benefits to hand sanitizer sales, you get what I'm saying? Right. So that's what Donald Trump did with infrastructure. I mean, every potentially decent working class policy he proposed back in 2016, he didn't do. In 2016, he had the richest cabinet this country ever seen, putting more billionaires and CEOs than anybody's ever done. And he's on track to do a pretty similar thing with this cabinet. So,
I have one more question for you. Do you think that now that he has, he has
Wait, can you repeat that?
Yeah, so my question for you is, do you believe that now with 8 more years of experience, and with the House and the Senate and the Supreme Court on his side, that he'll be able to actually enact some of the things that he wants to do?
Okay, I mean, that's an interesting question. So, for example, I'm assuming that you might be kind of framing as those stuff like an infrastructure plan, stuff like the manufacturing stuff. He wasn't able to do it because he faced opposition. He had a trifecta, my understanding, in the Senate and the House. There was some times where he would get opposition, like when John McCain prevented him from getting rid of the Affordable Health Care Act, because it would get rid of healthcare for tens of millions of people. The thing is now, I think there's enough senators, enough representatives that won't really block if he tries to do something like get rid of the Affordable Health Care Act, and then a bunch of people are going to go off healthcare. Many of them are going to die. They won't block him if he wants to get rid of the CHIPS Act, because he'll be probably trying to disassemble much of what Biden put in, and that would take $50 billion out of investing in infrastructure. Manufacturing. So I think he really won't face much resistance in a lot of the policies he wants to do. He didn't really face too much resistance early on in his first administration.
No, I do think that he was more so like this. I personally don't think he was all that qualified during the first presidency. He really didn't know what he was doing.
Yeah.
Now, within the second presidency, having more understanding of the processes of getting things done. We will see a lot more of his policies pushed into place. Whether they are good or bad, we'll have to see. I'm more on the side that they'll be good, but
I think he has a lot more sycophants around him. He's kind of solidified that he wasn't a fluke, and the more, I guess you can say, moderate. I don't really consider any Republican much in the party and in party politics moderate. He sent a message to the moderates this time around that I'm not gonna go away. That you didn't really like me at first. You followed along with most of the things. I mean, they collaborated on a ton of things like the tax cuts for the rich. But now there's a lot more sycophants, and there's a lot more ideologically pro-Trump people in the Republican Party. So at the end of the day, he will get a lot of stuff done, especially with the House on his side.
Right.
And I think that's going to ultimately result in hurting the American people. I mean, if he got his tariffs done, let's just say not even the 2,000% tariffs he was just kind of floating around, but let's just say the 20% for friendly countries, 60% for China. I mean, that would lead to economic disaster. That would make the inflation that we saw in 2022 look like fucking nothing. So companies are already hunkering down for that. The people got to be ready for that. I can tell you that. So anyway, we've been at this for 14 minutes.
Yeah, I was about to say
some people waiting. So I think I'm going to move on now.
Yeah, man, it was good talking to you.
Nice talking to you, brother. Appreciate it.
Peace.
Now, how long has this stream been going? I don't know. I'll check it. Let me quickly read the chat. I'll start with YouTube chat because y'all get a little bit ignored too much. Have you gotten the slave message? I have not gotten the slave message, but that shit is pretty wild. Let's see here. I'm looking for questions. Believe me, they do. Have anybody in disability, Social Security, Medicare, Medicaid, they will be affected. Absolutely. This person says it's not even Thanksgiving yet. Calm down. That's the thing. It's not even Thanksgiving yet. And this motherfucker already abandoned you. And y'all voted for him. And y'all still supporting him. You need age and experience. The Chips and Science Act was a great thing. Oh, Billy Bob says Chips Act was a waste. Okay, so some people don't like investing in manufacturing. I do. I like manufacturing. What an ignorant clown. People wanted him too. That's not really an argument. Isn't it Transgender Week? I never heard of Transgender Week. All right, let's move on to let's see here. TikTok chat. Your DNC paycheck is fixing to be an IOU. Kamala is broke. Brian, I don't get paid. I just give a fuck about the country. Trump train. Respect for my YouTube homies. I came from the YouTube stream. Yes, thank you. You know, you came from the YouTube stream, so I'm gonna put you in. Hello. I saw you came from the YouTube stream, so I was like, all right, let me put this guy in.
Let's see. I had a couple points I want to talk about, but I see what the guy was talking about, hearing himself. I hear myself a little bit too.
Yeah. Sorry. I'm gonna turn down my audio a little bit. All right.
No, so that's all good. Yeah, his tariff policy is pretty crazy.
His tariff policy is pretty bad. Yeah, no good.
I was looking at the logistics of like with chips, for example.
Yeah.
I don't think we have the infrastructure nor the time to create said infrastructure within his 4 years to make up the 90% of chips that we get from Taiwan.
Yeah.
And I think that his policy, it aims to domesticate it, which I'm all for, but the time frame is just not logical whatsoever.
Yeah. No, I mean, the tariff policy is a disaster. Look, some people are like, okay, here. This is an interesting one. Real quick, I see this person here. Weed Snob says, tariffs are temporary. They are a negotiating tool. That's not what Donald Trump's saying. I mean, Donald Trump floated around the idea of replacing our income tax revenue with tariff revenue. Now, I'm sure you recognize tariffs. He claims tariffs are temporary. You're probably trying to say that they're harmful. That's why they're temporary. Now, if that's the case, then why are we going to replace our revenue from income tax with tariffs unless the goal is to keep them for a long time. But it's also real dumb to try to keep them for a long time because tariffs are inherently trying to discourage trade. That's why, for example, when there's a tariff on electric vehicles from China that Biden passed, that I support because I'm not principally against tariff, the goal was to prevent the Chinese EVs from entering the American market. This is the difference between targeted tariffs and across-the-board tariffs. Targeted tariffs are to protect certain industries, are to boost them, prevent competition from being flooded in by Chinese products. But when Donald Trump talks across the board EVs, that's just going to make everything expensive. I saw a study that's saying $3,000 to $4,000.
Yeah, which is a shame because they have some cool cars. I'm not gonna lie.
Yes. I mean, I'm not against. Look, I'm for competition and stuff. So if, for example, there was better made foreign cars, then we should be making cars that are better than that if we want to compete with them.
Yeah, I agree.
Yes.
And our domestic auto manufacturing is a big strong point. So I think it would be good to have even more competition. That's just me, though.
Yeah, I mean, competition encourages innovation, you know? So,
It does, yeah.
yeah.
It's
I
one
mean,
of the strong arms.
I'm curious, though. Do you mainly kind of agree with my point? Because we're about 50 minutes into the stream, and I kind of didn't want to go too much after an hour. So, if you're mainly in agreement, I'm curious, just kind of like any final points or anything like that before we move on?
I did want to talk about the Israel versus Gaza, the Palestine thing.
Yeah.
And this is kind of like a side point because I don't see a lot of people talking about this.
Yeah.
I'm coming from a very, I guess, like agnostic point of view, like religiously.
Yeah.
And I see a lot of what happens in the Middle East being so religiously charged.
Yeah.
And I think the U.S., on one hand, because we are a superpower, you could argue that we have like a moral obligation to help out these nations. But then you also have the argument that we should be focusing on at home and the issues that we have at home, which we have a lot of. And it's like cultural relativism. We're over here trying to decide which nation gets to survive and why they should survive. And then at the same
I think with Israel and Palestine, I actually think the religious side of the conversation is actually not the most important thing, because I see some people, one of the people that came on earlier was essentially saying this is a religious conflict, this is ancient, so on and so forth. They're just gonna keep fighting. Now the thing with that is, I think that kind of removes the agency of sort of the modern states. You know, at the end of the day, there was no like conflict at this level. When the Ottomans were running the region, or when the British were running the region. That when Israel became a state, and there is currently 2 states of Palestine, that's when there's conflict. And that's I try to keep it in the modern era when I'm discussing Israel and Palestine. And as it stands right now, this conflict has been going on for decades. I would not put this as like a centuries-long conflict, religious conflict, and so on and so forth. But I think as our responsibility, at least, should not be supplying the government bombing the children, you know, and that isn't a justification of everything Hamas has done. Absolutely not. But it's pretty clear who the group with the bigger impact is in Israel and Palestine. You know.
When I said religious, I just meant like particularly with the idea of Zionism and whether Israel.
100%.
I think that issue is just like it's the big part of what makes the Middle East either be pro or anti-Israel is whether or not Zionism is justified. And I'm not going to take sides in that because frankly I don't know.
Zionism is a much deeper conversation to have, you know. But I would say that my view is that no state should be exclusively like an ethno state or a theocracy. You know, that's kind of my prescription on that. But we're gonna move on to some of the next people. So I appreciate you coming, especially you coming from YouTube chat. Thank you for your time.
Respect to my YouTube homies.
Yes, make sure to subscribe and follow both accounts. Thank you.
All right. Thank you, man.
All right. I feel like I seen these 2 guys specifically added context and sunned it in the wait list for a bit. I don't remember who came on first. I'll put added context first. Hello.
Hey, how you doing? Thanks for
What's up? What's on your mind?
Hi, how's it going? So I was listening a lot. Oh, there's an echo on my end?
Yeah, let me turn down my volume a little bit. Hopefully it's not too bad.
Test, test. Let me leave the app and come back 1 second. Hello?
Hello.
Hey,
think
should I leave and come back?
No, I think
if
it's
I
just
leave...
my audio. I'll turn you down a little bit more, but let's just have this conversation.
All right, sorry, I don't want to be annoying. So I was listening a lot in your take on what's going on in Israel-Palestine, and with all due respect, I don't think you have all of the information. A lot of your statements are kind of outrageous.
What statement I made was outrageous?
Well, the first one was saying how Hamas isn't in the West Bank. They do have a big prevalence in the West Bank, and actually the Palestinian Authority suspended elections in 2021 out of fear of growing prevalence of Hamas in the West Bank.
Yeah,
and
but they don't.
essentially...
My main point with that was Hamas doesn't run the West Bank, yet Israel still goes and takes territory and steals land and so on and so forth. My main point is this, when people bring up Hamas exclusively to represent the Palestinians, as one of the previous guests was kind of doing, I don't think that that's necessarily the best idea. Even when you have the Palestinian Authority, which is not run by Hamas, as you said, they suspended elections to prevent Hamas because they had concerns about that, you still have Israeli oppression.
So I hear what you're saying, and the whole taking land and everything, that's a whole nother conversation that could be had on top of it. But just your statement was Hamas isn't in the West Bank. I hope you know that's categorically untrue. In fact, they've even operated out of the West Bank. The ceasefire, I think that was in November.
My main point with bringing
Hamas
the West Bank
was...
in was the fact that Israel passed a policy giving the settlers guns. And the thing is about the settlements. We all understand that the settlements are illegal under international law. Arming people to do something illegal is a bad look in my view.
So I think we'd agree that there's a lot of things Israel has done with the settlers that need to be reevaluated and changed. In terms of legality, there is the Oslo II Accords that is recognized as legal because it was agreed upon by the Palestinian Authority and Israel, that allows Israel to contain settlements in the West Bank for the time being.
Yeah, any areas that are agreed to is fine. If there's an agreement to reference, but I don't think all the settlements, especially when they're just going into homes and taking it, I don't think that that's justifiable under anything. But,
so the going to homes and taking, which I think you're discussing, involves around the court cases, which again is just, and by the way, every single sect of what we could talk about is like a whole nother conversation onto itself. But keeping the thing, my whole point was Hamas is in the West Bank, and there are problems out of there that needs to be addressed, and Israel has the right to address them because according to the Palestinian Authority, they're allowed to.
I think one of the first steps they could do to deal with Hamas is to stop their support of them. That's a good start.
Israel doesn't support Hamas.
Netanyahu literally has statements supporting him. There is a history of covert operations propping up Hamas because they give him a bad guy, to sort of a boogeyman in a way, to have as their punching bag essentially.
I'm sure. Yeah, I understand that there's probably errors that the Israel government has done that treated Hamas that probably maybe helped Hamas inadvertently, but that doesn't mean they are helping Hamas. If that was the case, then
it goes literally
all the
back to the 1970s and early 80s.
Well, once Netanyahu wasn't in government in the 70s and 80s, but
I know Netanyahu wasn't.
No, but you said Netanyahu was propping up Hamas.
Netanyahu has openly supported them.
Okay, sorry. So going back to what I was saying, if it was so true that people actually viewed Israel supporting Hamas, then pro-Palestinians would be like, oh, look at Israel, they're helping Hamas. Like, that's just
the pro-Palestinians aren't inherently pro-Hamas, but Israel was a part of the formation of Hamas and the continued existence of Hamas because it gives
Hamas
them a bad guy that they can justify.
Hamas actually started with the Muslim Brotherhood in Egypt, and they started, which was a terror organization in itself.
They gave funding and assistance in the 70s.
Everyone
and 80s.
gave funding and assistance. They were building schools. The UN, the America, everyone was giving funding and assistance. It's not like Iran gives funding and assistance. That doesn't mean that Israel. So that's what I'm saying. I don't think you entirely know with all respect, the full
Well, I mean,
breadth of
you just said that there was no support for Hamas. It's not just they're building schools; it's direct support for the political movement that Hamas is.
Again, respectfully, I didn't say. I said yes, there were some mistakes that they did, which probably helped in the long run, but that doesn't mean they're supporting Hamas. Just because they do something that entirely.
There's a statement here. Former Israeli officials have openly acknowledged Israel's support or Israel's role in providing funding and assistance to Hamas as a means of undermining the secular Palestinian factions such as the PLO. Brigadier General Yitzhak Sergev, who has served with the Israeli military as governor of Gaza during the 1980s, admitted to providing financial assistance to Muja I can't even pronounce that, the precursor of Hamas, under the instruction of Israeli authorities. So this is a Brigadier General.
And so again, you take like one little bit and you try to make a generalized rule across that, which is no, it's not, because back then Hamas was also a charity organization that was building schools and hospitals and everything. It wasn't until later they started getting a little crazy, and then you have the
I don't think there was ever
first
really
and
a
second
time where they were exactly like some kind of secular charity, just chill guys. Okay?
No, they were. Like, look them up. When they were first, I think it was 1987. They started being they were considered a charity organization, and the entire world, I think, gave
officials have acknowledged that they wanted them to undermine the secular factions of the Palestinian.
So again, you're fixating on the one aspect of what Israel's doing, when again everyone has been giving money to Israel. Literally, Israel and America and Iran and everyone still gives money to UNRWA, which is proven to give money to. Again, you're fixating. That's not entirely what this entire conversation to go to. I just wanted to say, hey, Hamas is in the West Bank. That's it. You also mentioned that most people unalived in Gaza were children. That's also not the case.
Oh no, that is true.
No, it's not.
That is
according
true. If you want to look that up. I saw like it's just I saw a thing the other day that showed a visualization of the people killed, and it was the same sort of graph that they show the age distribution for countries, where they'll show like if let's say like Japan has a sort of mushroom shape of a younger, smaller group. As they get older, it becomes this mushroom shape here. It was upside down for Israel and Palestine. I mean, half the population in Gaza is under 18. So of course they're going to get the brunt of the damage.
Well, no, not half, about half. But so
about half. Yes, about
according
half.
To Al Jazeera, who gets their information from the Palestinian Ministry of Health, which is Sanjay Atroop.
Because it's the only health organization there. One of the only health organizations.
Right, but they're the ones that people rely on to actually count the figures. So according to them, which is also Hamas being the government ruling authority of Gaza, there have been 43,846 people that have been unalived, and they don't differentiate between combatants and non-combatants, and 16,765 have been children, which make up, I believe, around 38% of the population, not over 50%. You're off.
Wait, can you repeat that? You kind of rushed at the end there.
16,765 are children out of 43,846. We don't know who is combatant, who's not combatant, because they don't ever separate that number. But that is under
September 2024. More women and children killed in Gaza by Israeli military than any other.
Women and children. Women and children. Yes, women and children. Your statement was more children.
Figures show that 6,000 women and 11,000 children were killed in the conflict in the last 12 months. And this was September. So I mean,
correct.
Killing children.
You said
bad.
children. Most have been.
I would hope that we can agree with that.
No, because you said mostly children. You said it yourself. It's women and children. That's not mostly children. You can't just take all the women and say mostly children.
Still pretty bad. Here, UN Human Rights Office said on Friday.
Wait. Actually,
hold up. Nearly 70% of the fatalities verified in the Gaza war were women and children. Okay, sure. Let me add women to my claim.
Okay, yeah, and now mostly women and children are unalive, unfortunately, in every conflict. The point is that they are underrepresented. Correct, every conflict. Find me a conflict.
That's interesting. Yes. I think
that's what I'm saying.
I think when you had World War II, you probably had mainly men, being thrown at each other in the Eastern Front, for example, and you probably had mostly men that died in that conflict. I'm sure a lot of women and children did, but I think there's a bit of uniqueness when 70% of the verified war deaths are women and children. Either way, we understand that a good portion of that population, nearly half, you didn't say, not half if you want me to be specific, but nearly half, nearly 50%.
Well, no, like 30, I'd say.
So
I'd say if it was like.
Of course, when you do a total siege, the children are mainly going to be affected.
Okay, affected versus unalive are two different things. I mean, I'm sure everyone in Gaza and Israel are in some way, shape, or form affected, but that's not what I was trying to get at is, so it's 30%
Also,
of the
we've been at
population.
this for 10 minutes, so let's try to finish up. Let's try to wrap it up.
I just say I think that you should probably do more research into some things, because I don't think you know as much as you think you do on this topic. Also, the Ottoman Empire were Muslim,
I do know
so
83% of the aid has been blocked, so that's pretty bad too, right?
right, but that doesn't mean just because 83% of the aid is blocked doesn't mean they're not getting the amount of aid that they need to survive. In fact, there's only been 38 instances. There's only been 38
if there's a famine, I don't think you're getting the food that you need.
There's only been 38 instances of people starving to death in Gaza, and the UN actually recounted the fact that there is no actual famine in Gaza. There's only been 38 cases.
That's pretty bold here.
There's only been 38 cases of people dying from.
1.1 million people, half of Gaza, experience catastrophic food insecurity.
Correct.
UN News, looming catastrophe. Experts warn of high risk of famine in northern Gaza.
Correct.
I think it was John McCain's wife, John McCain is a neocon warmonger himself, but she was part of some organization talking about the famine that's going on in Gaza. Here, another thing here. If food supplies remain blocked, then famine will most likely occur. And I gotta say, just as a person, 83% of aid being blocked shows there's an interest in causing hunger, using hunger as a weapon. Don't you think?
Well, by the way, aid, you're assuming all aid is food. All aid is not only food.
Yeah,
also, it's like blankets and medicines and other stuff. Not some. You're assuming things. Now, again, at the end of the day, people have been warning about a big famine in Gaza for over a year.
Oh, wait, no. It's specifically talking about 83% of food aid.
Okay, but that doesn't mean
so
the 17%
we're talking
of
about
aid.
Food specifically,
Okay, fine, but again, that doesn't mean the 17% of aid that is going in isn't preventing mass starvation. And in fact,
I'm
only
sure that people that get the food are able to eat.
Yes, and only 38
gonna be
people.
But when you have 83% not being allowed, I mean, that's gonna kill some people, right?
There's only 38 people, I believe, have died from
I don't know where you're
malnutrition
fucking
in
38
Gaza.
numbers from, but I'm seeing millions of people at risk.
I think it's the UN.
Right.
I know they've been at risk for over a year.
People at risk. I'm seeing 83% of food blocked, and you literally have statements from the cabinet members talking about putting Gaza in a total and complete siege.
Yeah, now look up how many people have actually starved to death from lack of food, and you're not really going to find any numbers because by and large, people are still eating.
I imagine the
and this has been going for over a year. If people are starving,
I imagine it makes it real hard to find every single Palestinian that has starved to death. But I'm sure you could find a lot of
they're really good
with bony bodies and yeah. So you can find the record that 83% of the food is being blocked. You can find the people saying that there's to be a siege, and of course those people are from the Israeli government directly.
Gaza's health ministry, so you don't trust Gaza's health ministry. As of April 1st, they reported 32, including 20 children, have died of malnutrition and dehydration. The war was essentially going on already
when was this and what is the source? I'd like to see it.
This is Human Rights Watch.
Wait, hold up.
If you just search...
I fucked up my camera real quick. 1 second. Hold on.
You're good.
All right, there you go. Human Rights Watch.
Yeah, look up Israel's imposed starvation deadly for children.
Israel's starvation.
Now, and I just want to make a preference. I have no doubt that yes, people are probably worried about about getting their next meal.
Human Rights
but
Watch.
if the
Israel,
assumption
starvation used as a weapon of war in Gaza, evidence indicates civilians deliberately denied access to food and water. The Israeli government is using starvation of children as a method of warfare in the Gaza Strip, which is a war crime. So they are committing war crimes. Israeli officials have made public statements expressing their aim to deprive civilians of food, water, and fuel. Statements reflected in Israeli military operations, and the Israeli government should not attack objects necessary for the survival of civilian population, lift its blockade in Gaza, and restore electricity and water.
And if somebody
is out here potentially gonna die if they're not getting electricity, water, or food.
Well, okay, exactly. And
say like,
conflict...
say if you're in a hospital.
Right. Okay. So if you let me get a sentence in here. The thing that conflicts that own argument is they're saying that thus far, as of that time, only 38 people have actually died from malnutrition. This has been going on. Wait. Can I just finish?
I searched what you told me to search, and I'm seeing.
No. Exactly. I'm just.
9 out of 10
pinpoint. Yes.
No.
Correct. Let me finish.
Have at least one full day, one full night without food.
Agreed. and yet they also report only 38 people
I
have
don't
died.
see this
Now,
38 number when I looked up what you wanted me to look up. But we're going to move on because we've been at this at 15 minutes. I told you to make some closing
it's
arguments.
saying that
And
you're
you
not,
told me
alright,
that
I
I'm
mean,
not informed. And you are out
you're
here
not.
pretending like starvation isn't a thing in Gaza. It's honestly pathetic. Genuinely.
Well, because people aren't dying.
People aren't dying. Yeah, people are. We actually don't need food to survive. All right. We're going to move on. I think I've seen this person here for a while, so I'm going to put them in. Hello. They're not picking up. False information again. Big Mike, I agree. The idea that starvation is not happening in Gaza, pretty false. Why don't you just support Trump so he can get peace in the Middle East? Weed snob. How the fuck is Trump going to make peace in the Middle East? I'm explaining to you that he's going to continue this conflict in Gaza. He says Biden was holding them back, even though Biden was completely supporting everything they did. So yeah, no, peace is not coming to the Middle East when it comes to Trump. And this person, I don't know what's going on. I've seen you for a while, but I'm going to give you like a bit more time. But I think they have to accept that they were being pulled onto the screen. Lizard says you are pro-Russia. Interesting. Okay, this person didn't come on. Chipper, you're getting your chance in. Hello, hello, can you hear me?
Hello, can you hear me?
Yes, what's on your mind?
So I voted for Trump
Yes.
based off of military excursions
Okay.
and military decisions. So I'm a military member,
Yeah.
and the Biden administration, with Harris, a big piece of that, obviously, as the vice president, proved to me over and over again they do not know how to handle foreign conflicts, especially
luckily,
that
in your
include our troops.
perspective, Kamala Harris will not be president of the United States. But
Correct.
my prompt here, Trump has already abandoned you, specifically abandoned MAGA, is he ran on he's going to be this sort of peace bringer, peacemaker, when he's not. His record doesn't show that, and what he's already doing does not indicate that. So, yeah, I'm curious where you disagree with my perspective there.
I mean, mostly I voted mostly for the last 4 years of missed decisions, and in the 4 years previous to that, where Trump was in.
Again, but I'm talking. We can talk about records, and we can especially talk about Trump's record since he's going to be the president. But I'm saying he promised to be this peace bringer, and the decisions he's making, especially with his cabinet picks, does not indicate that whatsoever.
Well, when we look at the Ukraine war, stuff's already starting. Hamas, I don't know how true the headline is. I don't really.
The only thing with Ukraine is Trump is the reported Trump plan for peace is essentially just give Russia the land. And stop the
I
fighting.
believe I've seen the same things as you.
And
like they pretty much draw where the lines are right now and hand that territory to Russia. And
well, the thing is that you got to see if the
falls back
Ukrainians
where it's
agree to
been.
that. I don't know if the Ukrainian government's going to agree to just
They will
give
not
up their
agree
land.
to that. You're correct.
And you can recognize, though, let's say that is the case, that's just appeasement.
Oh, 100%. And that's the issue with that is that appeasement, obviously, as you can see in World War II, did not work for any of those countries involved. And sorry, I'm losing my voice the last couple of weeks. But but then you see in Ukraine, the Crimea stuff that happened back in 2014, the appeasement obviously did not work there. And so I see where the left is coming from with supplying Ukraine and having their backs, because we appeased the Taliban in 2021. We pulled out of Afghanistan and we left them $75 billion in military hardware to then now pursue a terror campaign against their own people. And so I don't know where the correct answer with Ukraine lies.
I would say with
believe
Afghanistan, we can disagree about the pullout or like certain details of the pullout, but ultimately any pullout of Afghanistan would really not have worked because the government that we had set up, and we set them up for 2 decades, was a paper tiger. It was flimsy. It immediately fell out.
Absolutely.
From under its feet. So there was just no real winning in Afghanistan. I'm just going to be honest. Donald Trump wanted to also pull out as soon as possible, and he released like Taliban leaders in one of the deals he made with them. So there was some generals saying, I remember this story a while ago, it's been like a few years, but he was pushing for an earlier end to the war so he could take credit from it before he gets out of office, like in January, before he would be kicked out.
I never saw that.
Yeah,
and you're
it's been a while, but
Milley.
that's not the most important thing. Ultimately, I could say that if we left Afghanistan today, you would still probably see a lot of the same issues. And Donald Trump wanted to leave it soon too. Ultimately,
Well,
Donald Trump did promise to end it, and he didn't.
Is Trump in his last few years in office pulled the majority of combat troops out of Afghanistan to the point where they were only using Bagram airfield base. There was only 2,000 troops in Afghanistan when Trump left office, and that those 2,000 troops were just enough as a deterrent force so the Taliban didn't absolutely overwhelm the ANA, and we were still
my understanding with Trump in
airstrikes.
Afghanistan is he increased. It was, if I remember, it's been a while, right? But it was essentially a low level by the time Obama left, still present, like probably like 2,000.
We were still going on combat patrols when Obama left. When Obama left office, we were still going on combat patrols in Afghanistan. Troops were still going on combat patrols and operating on combat outposts.
I mean, the war never ended under Obama. Obama also promised to end the war, and he failed on it, just like Trump. The point with Trump is he could fluctuate he fluctuated numbers. I don't know specifically of Afghanistan or just the Middle East broadly, and
it was the Middle East broadly.
Bring it up and then lower it, and then he would take credit for lowering it as if he didn't put it up.
Well, the thing is with Syria, for example, Obama deployed 2,600 troops to Syria, and Syria's a shit show. And sorry for my use of the
I don't agree with Obama's policy on Syria.
And so Trump left. He took out the majority of troops in Syria and left the contingency force. And there was really no issue with the contingency force being there up until the last couple of years when Iran started targeting U.S. military installations in Syria with missiles and ballistic missiles and also mortars and other small armed attacks. And we've seen over 180 instances where U.S. troops have been injured in Syria in the last 4 years. And then
Donald Trump actually didn't really even properly pull out of Syria.
He didn't pull out of Syria. I said he left the contingency force of about 700 troops. 600 to 900 troops were left as a contingency force.
At some point, he put in more troops to defend the oil fields.
I don't know where you're seeing that from. I've never read that. I just know that he
was
pulled
reported in 2019. But the point is, I'm not for the forever wars. I don't like them.
I'm not either. I think we should be an isolationist country. I don't think we should be supplying Ukraine with weapons.
Isolationism because we know isolation doesn't work.
It works to an extent. Obviously, I'm not saying like
I wouldn't
the thing is, we don't need to have pockets of
conflate
troops.
striving for peace to isolationism, right? I think we can try to be non-interventionist in most situations. For example, with Iraq, we should not have invaded Iraq. You know, Saddam Hussein
100%.
did not have weapons of mass destruction, and we did invade him under that pretext, and I completely disagree with that. But
Iraq was a mistake.
100%.
And that wasn't even a mistake. It was a lie by George Bush and his administration.
100%.
And they got thousands of American troops killed and thousands more injured, and now we have
and like 1 million Iraqi civilians. You know.
So yeah, absolutely. I think it's between 1 million.
I agree with you that there are places where we don't need to increase military presence or increase military action whatsoever. I just don't believe Donald Trump is serious about it. For example, when it comes to the drone strikes, he increased drone strikes 432%. When it comes to the conflict in Yemen, he was given a chance to stop the U.S. from sending weapons to him, and when given that chance by a member of his own party,
sending weapons to them, you're talking about the Saudis?
He rejected it. Sorry?
Are you talking about the Saudis when you said stop sending weapons to them?
Yes. The Saudis.
Okay.
He continued to send weapons to the Saudis. There was a bill put on his desk to stop that because of what's going on in Yemen.
Well, I was just making sure that's who you were. I understand that. I know about that bill and everything like that. I was making sure you weren't talking about the Yemen government. I don't think we've been sending weapons to the Yemen government. But
No.
We're sending weapons to
talking about Saudi.
Okay.
Yeah. And then when it comes to the current conflicts with Russia, I mean, I don't know if the Ukrainians are just going to agree to just let Russians keep their land. That's kind of a decision for them to make. I don't think they really would appreciate Donald Trump suggesting that. But I also, honestly, I don't even know if we're going to even pull out. Or not pull out's not the right word, but stop our support. There's the potential chance, but he's getting a lot of neocons in, and it's a rare situation where I'm kind of a bit more aligned with them because I personally just have the opinion that a country that's being attacked should be able to defend himself. And like the lessons of appeasement in World War II, if you just let a country keep doing what they want to do and they feel like they can do anything, that could potentially lead to more death and destruction. You know, if the Russians, for example, supported the Allies in Poland instead of taking half of it, then maybe you would have less people dead in the Battle of Moscow. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
So, but when
Wait,
it
wait,
comes
wait,
to
wait.
Israel,
Say that again. Say that again. I'm sorry.
I was saying when the Russians, at the beginning of World War II, after a lot of appeasement,
Okay.
they attacked Poland, and the Russians also joined in taking the eastern side of
Yep.
Poland. I kind of.
Did you? Okay, okay.
Of
I
course,
think
I
what
can't know this
confused me.
because
I
this is
think you
making
meant
a
to say
hypothetical. But
Warsaw.
I feel as if they were able to help the Allies right away. You'd probably have a less people dying in the Battle of Moscow. You know.
Are you talking about the Battle of Warsaw or the Battle of Moscow?
No. I'm saying if the Russians joined with the Allies early on, instead of
Okay.
essentially collaborating with the Germans, they would not have had a Germany in a strong enough position to get into the Soviet Union. My point is, I don't think appeasement works. And that's
No,
the
it
lesson
doesn't
we learned
work.
from that conflict. I'm not saying go into every conflict, but I'm saying countries that are defending themselves should have some support.
Yeah, but to an extent, like we shouldn't be pouring. For example, like I see Ukrainian troops on the front lines. They have better weapons than my unit does, and we're an American military unit that just came back from a deployment.
Yeah.
And we would be outgunned by a Ukrainian military unit. They are getting better equipment and better gear, better weapons, everything, the whole 9 yards. We're using outdated Gustav missile launchers. I've never seen a Javelin.
Yeah.
The Ukrainians are more trained up on a Javelin than I am, and the Javelin's an American weapon. So where do you draw the line when it comes to equipping your own military? And, you know, like half the time we don't even have the stuff we need to go. And on top of foreign policy, I'm trying to get there, is Trump, before he left office, he pulled out of Somalia and Kenya. And people don't know that we have troops in Somalia and Kenya
we have
still.
troops everywhere, definitely.
We have, and in 2019 and middle of last year, there was an attack on the Somalian Baladogle airfield base in Somalia where we have American troops stationed. And in Kenya, 4 years ago, in January of 2020, there was the Manda Bay attack. Harry Mayfield, a military specialist, was killed, and 2 other Americans were killed that were contractors. And so Trump pulled troops out of those bases, and then the Biden administration immediately reversed that decision when they came back into office and put troops back into those locations. And now we have troops that are in locations we don't need troops to be. There's no real strategic need to have troops in those areas when, for example, the Kenyan Defense Forces, they are established enough they can take those things for themselves. So we just have Americans in locations where we don't need to have them. The Biden administration doesn't even seem to be aware of that. Harris, especially, the reason I voted the way I did was because Harris was not educated about where we have American military troops. She said we have no troops in combat zones, and that was a really well-played clip. Everyone knows about that. And we have over 50,000 troops in combat zones. We had 3 troops get killed 6 months ago in Jordan under her administration that were Georgia reservists, and they were killed in Jordan.
One of the big issues with Kamala Harris was ultimately...
and I don't think she was set up to succeed to begin with.
I'm sorry, what?
I said I don't think Kamala Harris was set up to succeed to begin with by the Democratic Party, but
yeah, she was. She kind of ran this like campaign where she was trying to appeal to this like mythical moderate Republican, which really did not shift Republican turnout for the Democrats. You know, it was pretty much the same percentage of Republicans voting for Democrats.
I just want to say, I see someone commented more troops were taken with Trump than Biden.
So she was trying to make this perception that she's going to be strong on the military and this, that, or the other. I think it was a mistake. I think it actually cost her votes in key places like Michigan. But no, I'm generally non-interventionist in most situations. I think we should pull out where we can, but I also think as the biggest economy, as the global superpower, essentially, we do have some responsibility for making sure that certain standards are upheld and trying to make it clear that like invasions of conquest and just land grabs are not okay. Now, our country has a hypocritical history with that, but nonetheless, when I look at things case by case, you know, I view the Ukraine war specifically something a lot more justifiable than any recent conflict. You know what I mean? But honestly, I wouldn't even describe you as potentially isolationist. I think we're mostly in agreement. We just want no war when we can get it, and that's what I hear when I talk to soldiers. Is send less people off to war. I think most people would agree with that.
Yeah, 100%. And well, the thing is that with the Democratic Party, I just haven't gotten that vibe, and especially like I said, Trump pulled troops out of Somalia and Kenya. He didn't want troops there, especially after the Tongo Tongo ambush that happened in Niger. That he wasn't even informed about. His AFRICOM generals were lying to him. Military leaders were lying to him in Africa. and we had troops on the ground in Niger, which ended up with 4 men getting killed. And Trump, in what needed to happen, he fired all of Africa Command's generals and higher up leadership, and replaced them with people that were more transparent. And I just don't see that kind of accountability with the Biden administration. Like, for example, Pete Buttigieg, he was a brutal Secretary of Transportation, and there was just no accountability at all with the administration.
I don't quite know what you mean by brutal. I feel like with Pete Buttigieg, he just really didn't do much anything, you know?
Brutal, I didn't mean brutal as in like I meant brutal as in just really bad. I'm sorry. That's like
I wouldn't even say he was bad. I mean, we saw, and this isn't really to Pete's credit, but we have been seeing much more infrastructure investments. We've seen infrastructure bills passed under Biden. You know, when it comes to just like bettering transportation, Biden is objectively better than Trump on that. You know, Donald Trump promised he would do an infrastructure bill. Well, he did infrastructure week. When it comes going back to foreign policy, again, Donald Trump isn't really a peacemaker. He increased our military presence in some places, decreased it in other places. I think one of the biggest defining things about him is he increased drone
where did
strikes
he increase our military
132%,
presence?
and then he removed the checks and balances to make sure that it's transparent. You know, so I think my understanding is we only really know how much he sent out in the first 2 years, and in those first 2 years he's sent out more drone strikes than Obama's 8 years, and Obama increased drone strikes from the Bush era. Maybe part of that is the technology improved, but nonetheless, Obama should get shit for that too. But again, now Donald Trump is putting in Marco Rubio as his Secretary of State. There's some reporting saying that people are trying to convince him that Iran was they plotted assassinating him. They were trying to go after him. He has these super pro-Israel people in his cabinet now, like his ambassador to the United Nations, Mike Huckabee for ambassador to Israel. I mean, honestly, it wouldn't surprise me if we go to war with Iran. Part of me thinks he wanted war with Iran.
I highly doubt that. I just don't understand, where did Trump increase our military presence?
Well, again, he would increase troop presence in some places, then decrease it, and then take credit that he's like decreasing it when he really didn't do much. But he did definitely increase drone strikes to 132%, and he did kill an Iranian general. Which, if someone did that to us, we'd be at war with them. But the only reason a war did not occur is because even after
it happened in Iraq.
Iran showed restraint.
I believe that. Did that drone strike happen in Iraq? I thought that happened in Iraq.
It might have happened in Iraq because the Iranian general was at that moment literally fighting ISIS.
Yes,
so,
that is true.
You know, I think it's a pretty crazy thing to kill someone fighting ISIS. I hear like, oh, he has this controversy and that controversy.
Well,
I
the thing
understand
is
that,
with
but
that,
we don't kill other world leaders, especially when we're not at war with them. You know, so
well, that happened in Iraq, and I'm almost positive it happened in Iraq. If you could fact check.
Yeah, I mean, it potentially happened in Iraq, but it was an Iranian general in Iraq because Iran was one of the coalition members.
They weren't part
ISIS.
of a coalition. They were battling ISIS, but they were also supplying anti-Iraqi groups that were battling.
But at the end of the day, we should not be killing other world leaders unless we want to risk starting a war, which I don't think Trump really minded. My main point is this: if we're committed to peace, we're not going to kill foreign generals when we're not at war with them.
Yeah, 100%. I agree with you there. Yeah. I just think overall, though, I think military policy, and I think the world was more peaceful with Trump in office. That's a fact. There was not, Ukraine and Russia was not kicking off. Well, actually, I can go back on that. There was technically a civil war going on in the Luhansk and Donetsk region.
There was some conflict there, and we were supplying Ukraine to a much smaller degree, but we were supplying them, and we were definitely supplying like the Saudis war. There was the Syrian civil war. China was making moves, trying to be aggressive in the Pacific, trying to take islands from places like the Philippines and Vietnam, and so on and so forth. The world wasn't exactly at peace, and ultimately Donald Trump, and it's my criticism of Biden too, they increased the military budget each year when we already spend more than the top 10 countries combined. I feel like we should move towards not demilitarizing. Obviously, we need a military, but we can probably spend more than the top 5 countries combined. We probably don't have to spend more than the top 10 countries.
And I can tell you firsthand, I see so much money blown by the military.
You know, one of the things I feel like that's why that's the case is I feel like a lot of the things that the military needs done, right? I feel like a lot of it is being put into this sort of public-private situation, and the private companies being involved see that they're working with the military and know that they can overcharge. You know what I'm saying?
I know exactly what you're saying. I just want to bring up a small little example. For example, bus company,
Yeah.
when a unit needs to be transported to a training site, bus companies are overcharging like extreme amounts of money to rent the buses and get the time for the bus drivers.
Yep.
And for example, one weekend about 2 months ago, my unit went down to a training site and we spent 34 grand just on 2 buses to transport 90 soldiers, which was insane to me. And I even double checked with the bus driver. I was like, "Is that true that we spent? How much is?" I asked him how much the buses were being rented for, and he told me, and it was 34 grand altogether, and for 2 days. And I was like, "Jesus Christ, that's more
crazy.
than double. That's double my salary for the year with the military." And just going back to foreign policy, when you have troops in places like Jordan, Syria, Somalia, Kenya, Djibouti, you pay rent. In some of those instances, you're paying for air conditioning, which is almost 50% of our budget overseas. When it comes to those hot countries, we're paying for so much for air conditioning and electric. And
you put the troops there
salaries.
at risk.
Yep.
Yep.
And I just don't see why the Biden administration would increase troop presences in countries we don't need them, and especially when it seems like they're not fully educated. I feel like a part of that is military leaders lying to the politicians that are in DC, and it happened with Trump, but it also happened with Biden and Harris. They were lied to by military leaders, and I just feel like there's no accountability in the last administration. When Trump,
I feel like we could probably end the conversation soon because I got to piss. But but
you're good, man.
I guess one of the ways to finish out the conversation, I think we're mostly in agreement, and I can tell you this: I'm someone that is involved in not the National Democratic Party politics, obviously, but local party politics. And I try to, do what I can to influence the people around me, at least. I think we can agree, whether someone's a Democrat or not, we should hope to see a Democratic Party once again embrace sort of anti-war politics again. Because war generally helps nobody, but definitely hurts the troops. The best thing we could do for soldiers, people say, gotta respect the soldiers. The best thing we can do for them is to not send them off to die, And Democrats have genuinely lost their way. I'm saying that as a Democrat. I'm saying that as someone that votes for Democrats generally, unless the Republican has a better platform. I voted for a Republican before. But I think we can agree, you, me, the chat, both chats, YouTube and TikTok, that a Democratic Party which embraces anti-war politics is hopefully something we can see in the future. And Kamala Harris and Joe Biden, to maybe appeal stronger, have gone far too right-wing on the war, have gone far too aggressive. Ultimately, in my view, Donald Trump is going to do worse. That's the main thing there. That's why I'm against him, or one of the big reasons I'm against him. But at the end of the day, I can say I hope when you come home, if you're deployed right now,
I'm not.
I hope you're treated with respect, and I hope that you have the full benefits of things like the GI Bill, and I heard that the VA can be slow. I hope we can, even if there's going to be potential economic problems with the Trump administration, especially with the tariffs, I hope we can at least fund the VA. You know what I'm saying?
I don't see funding for the VA going away. The VA is pretty greasy in terms of how they spend their money and how they make people dig for the funding.
Mm-hmm.
But there's a lot of issues with that, but that's not the topic right now.
Yeah.
And
I feel like before we
I
exit,
think
are
overall
we
America
mainly in
will
agreement
benefit
on
from
most
a
of the
Trump
stuff,
presidency.
at least on issue by issue of what we want to see?
Yeah.
Maybe not so much
I just feel
on
like
Trump
overall
himself
America
as a
will
person,
benefit from
but
Trump presidency over. If Harris was the president, I feel like we would have been in a much worse situation than we are looking for the next 4 years with Trump at the helm. I think that, and also I just want to address something I saw in the chat. Someone said we lost more troops during Trump's first administration than we did in the Harris and Biden administration, which is true. Because like I said, in 2016, America was still heavily deep in Afghanistan.
Yeah.
You're obviously going to lose more troops in that sense. So I just wanted to clear that up. That is Afghanistan. And then Trump ended up reducing that number to 2,000 troops in a sitting on one airfield in Afghanistan. We didn't have a combat death in Afghanistan for almost 2 years at the end of Trump's presidency. People don't realize that. The next time we had a combat death in Afghanistan.
Just to clarify there, I don't think that's necessarily true. I did see like some statistics saying like pretty much each year Donald Trump's administration. I'm not saying he's necessarily perfectly responsible for each one of these deaths, but there was soldiers that had died. But
I never denied that. Like I said, there was 4 troops killed in Niger in 2018 or 2017.
No,
it was one of those
specifically in Afghanistan.
Specifically in Afghanistan, I think it was 18 months near the end of his presidency without a combat death. The next combat death we had in Afghanistan happened in August of 2021 when the Biden administration withdrew and the Abbey Gate incident happened, where 14 U.S. troops were killed, a soldier and a corpsman from the Navy.
Let me just check with that stat, make sure I'm not thinking about, or I'm not mixing U.S. troops with any other troops that were there.
There was definitely combat deaths in Afghanistan, but they were majority Afghan National Army and ANP casualties, because the ANA were taking over most of the fighting by that time, and they were obviously, as you mentioned earlier, they were a paper tiger. They were failing abysmally in almost every category. They had a lot of ghost soldiers in the payroll, and their commanders were extremely corrupt, and we were still funding their commanders, which was insane.
I do see. I do see here. I'm not just like clarifying just for like debate's sake, but just to make things clear. I'm seeing here specifically U.S. troops during the Afghan war. In 2016, so Obama's first or last year, there was 13 troops that had died. 2017, 15, 14 in 2018, 24 in 2019, 11 in 2020, and then the 13 that we know died in Biden's first year in 2021. But all I can say,
combat deaths. I
Oh, sorry. What? Sorry, what'd you say there? Oh, hello? Hello?
Can you hear me?
Yeah, I can hear you now.
Okay, I can't close out of my TikTok app while on the feed.
Yeah.
I just found that out.
No problem. But I can say is no matter how the pullout was messy, but I am glad that nobody's dying in Afghanistan anymore because we're not there anymore.
That is 100. I completely agree with you on that. But the issue is now we have troops in other countries. Trump wants to. He's made already statements about removing troops from Syria completely, and there's been pushback on that. But
I don't know if he's establishing exactly a cabinet that's gonna want to do that. But what will happen, we will see. For now, I gotta pee, so I'm gonna let you go for now. Thank you for coming.
Absolutely.
I appreciate your time.
Thanks for talking, man.
Yep.
Have a good one.
All right, folks. I gotta piss. And this was an hour and 30-minute stream. Good time, good debates. Let me go through some of the chat before I dip. We'll start with YouTube chat. Democrats still treat Project 2025 as the gospel? Well, even if Donald Trump didn't do Project 2025, the policies he espouses alone is already bad enough. But the Heritage Foundation, which made Project 2025, is very closely connected to Donald Trump. And generally, when you're thinking about policy done, we gotta wonder where the policy comes from. It generally comes from the think tanks and so on and so forth. Facts don't care about a lunatic gay teddy bear. I don't know what that means. Hollywood jit. People living in virtual reality. I'm not from Hollywood. Facts don't care about Trumpers' feelings. Yeah, true. But why is Teddy so weird, Teddy? I've never been vaccinated. I'm healthy and never had COVID. Good for you, Matt. So I don't know your specific life or your details about your health. Casper again says, I never got vaccinated. I'm perfectly fine. This person says, Casper again, I voted for Trump because this country is something I don't recognize anymore. Did they put something in the coronavirus shot? Bro, I'm sorry. I don't think you're fine. And I don't think it's the COVID vaccine. I don't think that's why you're fine or not fine, brother. I just don't think you're doing the best. You sound a little out there, respectfully. I'm a music producer on YouTube who makes his own beats. Keep at it, bro. I support you there. Let's see. TikTok chat. Trump was the best choice. I disagree with that. Harris was a bad candidate. Paid rich celebrities. Couldn't help her. Yeah, I don't think she was the best candidate. She was better than Trump, which if she was bad in your eyes, that puts Trump in a pretty low position. I'm seeing talk about the Confederacy. Let's go, Brandon619, a definitely nonpartisan account, says, "Are you kidding? His picks were exactly what we wanted. You're going way back." Really, dude? You wanted Marco Rubio? You wanted the neocons? Because I saw MAGA upset with the neocons. I saw MAGA upset, man. I'm just referencing what they were saying. With respect, the United States Marine Corps, this guy is good people. Disagrees, but respectfully. Lupin the Third followed the live creator. Lupin the Third! Holy shit! Ain't no way. I fuck with that show or that series just so hard. Democrats are telling lies even after the election. I don't know what lie I'm telling. He creates false narratives. I think I'm telling the truth. Joe Star in YouTube chat says Lupin the Third. Me too. I'm on the same, but I can't believe Lupin the Third's watching. All right, let's see. Let's go scroll up a little more. Seeing sort of debate among the different people, among the chatters. A whole debate about the Confederate flag. Constantly trying to talk shit about someone who helped you more than any of the last 4 presidents. Joe Biden, right? Talking about Joe Biden, obviously. You even a citizen. I think assuming that someone with an American accent, but they just don't happen to look like a Caucasian, is not a citizen, says a lot about that chatter. Truth Hurts says, proof, Lamau? No checkmark says, I can't wait for him to be dictator on day 1. Oh boy. Alright, let's go back down. Let's see what people are saying. Yes, Nelson, keep crying. Average MAGA intelligence. Bradshaw, I mean, you seem like a dumbass. I'm not even gonna lie. Bishop said, bro got 4 more years to cry. Bringing the country together by unaliving their families because Trump won? Unalizing? I don't even understand what you're saying, Blazin. I'm not gonna lie. This person says, I love these I told you so lives. Yeah, it is kind of that situation. As petty as that might be, it is kind of, this is exactly what we were warning about. Oh boy, I'm coming down. I'm seeing some spam. Zach Smith says, I'll be back for your next debate. Thank you, Zach Smith. Blazin says, a father unalive his family children because Trump won. I'm not familiar with that, but I can assure you I have not unalived anybody. Blazin says in all caps, a woman used a pickaxe on her dad because Trump won. You're not really convincing me. I don't know. This shit sounds like crazy stories. You can't believe everything you read on the internet, Blazin. This one says, I hope Trump changes the law and is president for life. Oh boy, yeah, no. The funny thing is, I'll say this respectfully to MAGA, that's probably where most of them are at politically. Bambo says, are you happy with the border? Border crossings are down, but I think we got to make our system a lot more efficient into making people citizens and getting them through the process. So no, I'm not happy with the border. How come Hunter Biden is on the board of Burisma? Host. Burisma is a company in Ukraine, first for some people's context, that Hunter Biden was on the board of. And I think it's just clear corruption. I can say that, but can we talk about how Jared Kushner, Trump's son-in-law, took billions from Saudi Arabia? Corruption comes from both sides, and corruption on both sides should be called out. Everyone says, would Kamala close the border? Kamala did support a right-wing conservative bill to make it harder to cross. That wasn't my pick. I think we got to make it easier to become citizens and more efficient. An inefficient and slow system increases the chances of people migrating illegally. Then why are you lying? Because he hasn't abandoned anyone. He isn't in office yet. So stop. Sassy American 3.0. Before you get into office, you make your cabinet picks, right? And if Donald Trump promised to be this anti-war guy and is then putting in warmongers and neocons that, by the way, Don Jr. said that he wouldn't put in. Don Jr., his son, literally said they're going to prevent the neocons from coming into the administration. He's failing at that because Donald Trump is picking the neocons. So I think that's abandoning you guys. Nelson says, host spitting facts. Thank you, sir. We can't take the world's poor. Use some logic. So you're just saying no immigration. Because if you're saying no immigration, that would hurt the country significantly more. Let's read YouTube chat a little bit. The world runs on tariffs. Tax is tax. The world doesn't run on tariffs. Venezuela tried price control. I'm sure Venezuela is the only country to prevent price control or to do price controlling in some manner. Are you fucking kidding me? Anybody that tried to say Kamala Harris is like some kind of communist, I mean, you guys are full of shit. You don't even know what the word means. Donald says, yes, people can come in the right way. We have a very slow process, Donald, but I hope we can agree that we should make the right way the faster and more efficient way. But I have to piss, folks. So I will see you guys later. Goodbye. I'm going to end the YouTube stream first.